Good evening and welcome to the City of South Haven Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, January 9th, 2020. I want to call the meeting to order. And first, I want to say good evening to everybody and Happy New Year. And then roll call, please, Marcia.
Velma Cunningham, Sam Dustin, Larry Heinig,
Here.
Todd Heinrich.
Here.
Michael Neese,
Here.
Rosalie Placati.
Here.
Janice Varney.
Here.
Tim Stegman.
Here, and we do have quorum. Next up, I'll entertain a approval of the agenda motion.
I move we approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, the approval of the meeting minutes of December 5th, 2019.
I move we approve the minutes of December 5th. Is that right?
Yes.
As printed.
Second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the December 5th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next up, we will hear from interested citizens in the audience who would like to be heard on items that are not on this agenda. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak about anything that's not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into old business, the golf cart regulations, and we're looking for a recommendation for safety requirements.
That's correct. So the golf cart ordinance, well, rather, the golf cart resolution, which was simply an adoption of the state statute, was brought before this commission. We wanted to look at the traffic impacts and if there was any kind of modifications that could be made to this action. And at our last meeting, we kind of got a little stuck on what safety components we could require. So Attorney Curcio is here, and he did present the memo that's in the packet, talking about some of the safety recommendations or requirements that could be added. And I'd like to have Nick kind of go over some of those. And I think that one of the commissioners has brought up that insurance has been used in other communities. So I'll let Nick kind of dive into some of those recommendations.
Okay, Nick?
Sure. So the memo she's referring to is just the staff report, and it does have some requirements, not requirements, but some regulations that the statute specifically allows municipalities to add at the time when they allow or authorize golf carts within the community. So there's a fairly comprehensive list of safety regulations that the statute says the municipality can require. If you'd like me to read that, I can, but it's essentially headlamps, tail lights, seat belts, some of the items that have been discussed in previous meetings. There's specific state statutory authority to do that if the city is interested. Another thing that the statute allows is the designation of paths alongside of roads. And when a path alongside a road is designated for golf cart use, then that street becomes off limits to golf carts, even if it's under 35 miles per hour. So I don't know if there's any areas in the city where that's potentially an option, but it's something that the statute allows for. In addition to the things mentioned in the statute, I did some research and found that other communities do impose other types of requirements through their ordinances, including insurance requirements. We found a couple of ordinances from other Michigan communities that require that at the time of registration. And it also found that apparently a lot of homeowners policies can either do or can be extended to cover golf carts, so that may not be overly burdensome to provide that proof of insurance if it were a requirement. That's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, may I ask? Sorry. I know it's in the rules that the operator must be at least 16 years old and be licensed, and yet I see a lot of, that's in the regular, Michigan rules. I see kids under 16, and I've been told, or at least it's been implicated, that as long as the parent's there, if he's got his learner's permit or something like that, how does that equate? Like in a car, the kid can be, well, I don't know, if he's got his permit and there's an adult in the car. Is this a straight up, you got to be 16 with a license to drive?
That's a good question. I would kind of assume that the ordinary learner's permit that's just treated like a vehicle in terms of the age limit.
As long
but
as
I-
the adult's next to him.
But I don't know for certain, and certainly anyone younger than the permit age should not be driving a golf cart, and it would be a violation of the vehicle code to do so. That 15-year-old range is a gray area. I'm not certain off the top of my head how that would apply.
You know, the kids look young, and then there seems to be a little bit of an older teen next to him. And I know that with Michigan, you can't, a 16-year-old with a license cannot be with a 15-year-old with a learner's permit. So I'm just, you know, that was my question on that.
We can look closer at that from an enforcement perspective, but I would think at the very least you'd have to have the parent or an older individual.
Has anybody else seen really young kids driving? Maybe because where I am, I'm Monroe and Van Buren. I mean, they do not look 16.
Yeah.
Unless I'm
That's
getting
why
so old.
that's why we're talking about this.
Yeah.
That was part of it.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? All right, before we move on to more comments, I'll ask, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak about the golf cart? No? Okay. So now, where do you guys want to go with this? Go ahead, Mike.
Thank Nick for coming up with this list. I mean, I think our primary concern was public safety, and I think this list addresses most of our concerns. Certainly, when I read through them all, I don't see any that would be terribly limiting on the people's right to use their golf cart. I'm not crazy about the crash helmet requirement, but short of that, these modifications are not major modifications to a golf cart, and I do think they greatly improve the safety on our streets. So I'd be all for us taking a look at amending our current ordinance and including these safety provisions.
Just to kind of break in here a little bit, the Milford ordinance that Nick referenced there, they did actually have a provision that stated that there was, the vehicle, the golf cart, could not carry more persons than it was designed for. So as we've seen maybe stacking or holding on to children while it's going down, maybe that's something to kind of roll into a recommendation to city council that they should maybe think about adding these safety recommendations in there, and you could maybe ask for that.
It wasn't clear to me when I read Nick's list whether that was even an option for us. But that's certainly, I think, one of my main concerns is I've seen those golf carts loaded up. Even on the golf course, we don't allow more than 2 people in the cart. So to see them lined up, and I have seen as many as 6 in a 2-seater, you know, and that's just nuts. So, yeah, I'd certainly support 2 per seat, and with a maximum of 2 seats. If they add a second row of seats, by the way, to me, that's the modification that moves it into the slow-moving vehicle, the second category, and would no longer be considered a golf cart anyways.
May I ask if you're referring to like the first 2 seats and then the seats that face backwards where you normally put clubs?
No, I believe Larry talked about it the last time we discussed it. I could see in the back end where normally your golf clubs would go, it's perfect, to me, reasonable to put a bench there.
Yeah.
However, the same manufacturers make something called a club car, which would include usually 3 benches in the main cabinet. A couple of our businesses do have them and use them on the streets. But by what I read by the state law, and Nick, you'd have to correct me on this, is that's no longer a golf cart then. That joins the classification as a slow-moving vehicle and has to comply with the regulations outlawed in a slow-moving vehicle. Of course, the question is, what becomes a modification?
The modification thing, I'm still not totally clear on. I know that there is that state form that you apply to the state to have it reclassified as a slow-moving vehicle. I'm not certain what happens if you don't do that.
Right.
I think if we're going down that road, it would probably be a good idea to contact the MSP and see what their position on that issue is.
Well, I think it would probably be a non-concern if we did indeed adopt a position that you had a maximum occupancy in a golf cart.
Comment? I didn't do as much research on this as I did the last time we visited this, but I believe these golf cart manufacturers, as soon as you modify it, they no longer accept any liability for it. So if you put 2 seats in, no matter where it is, they're saying it's no longer their vehicle. You've modified it. So getting somebody to sign off on where safety belts are or whether seats are facing forward or backwards, it seems that's a whole nother chapter we would have to open up if we started looking into that.
May I respond to that really quickly? The folks that contacted me that do everything the way they should, they don't speed, they don't pilot in the car or the golf cart. They went back to the manufacturer and got seatbelt modifications and things like that on their own, just to make it safer. So I'm not sure what you were talking about,
There are
Todd.
companies that sell kits, but when you buy that, they say,
That's it.
this is no longer our
Yeah.
product. You're modifying it. Whether you're buying the product from the original equipment manufacturer or from a third party, there's all kinds of disclaimers on those kits.
As I recall, Todd, and I think I read the same thing. I think it was actually a letter that went out from Club Car to their known customers saying, and I kind of read it as protection from liability. It says you change anything other than what we equip it for on a golf course, it's no longer considered a golf court in our designation. So.
And Nick, could you just, when you talk about the seat belts on here, safety belts that comply with MCL 257.710, is that just in the front, on the back, or, in the possible, additions?
I think it could be either. It doesn't specify where you can require those. I would say it would be on any seat if the municipality wanted to do so.
Because as I was thinking that through, and I did see that kid bounce right off the back onto the road. Yeah, I think on the back, but I can also see that if we require it on the back and something happens in the front, somebody will say, oh, well, you didn't require it in the front. So it's almost like it's like either both, to me, both or none.
I mean, I don't think the city would be liable for not requiring them in the front, but,
Okay.
I mean, it would be, yeah,
Okay.
someone might question that decision if that were to happen, but I could see it, a rational basis for only requiring one in the back. It does seem more likely that a sudden stop or something would propel someone out the back than in the front, but I think the state law allows you to require it on all seats or selective seats if you
Okay.
wanted to do so.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, I have a few comments. I see very little need for the first 4 bullet points. These things are not allowed on the road until half an hour after sunrise. They're off the road a half an hour before sunrise. Reflectors are going to be totally worthless because the cars aren't going to have their headlights on. So the only reflection you're going to get is off the sun. That's not doing much good for safety. And the lights, the tail lamp, the stop lamp, they're in their own lane of traffic, and it's daytime and it's light. Everybody can see what's going on. I think that's a list of things that are totally worthless. A windshield. I can't believe that at the speed they're going to be driving down the road that a windshield is going to be needed. If it's raining, they probably aren't even going to be out there. The identification number, the registration that the South Haven City Police have puts a sticker on them
Yes,
that
that's
allows
fine.
them to be identified. So I don't see a need for that one either. And the crash helmets, to me, has already been expressed. It just seems to be way overkill for something like this. The other items make reasonable sense to me.
And not, like taillights or anything when they make a stop? You don't think?
No, I don't.
Okay.
They're in their own lanes.
They're not always in their own lanes.
Well,
so.
they
They're
should be.
traveling in the same lane as
Yeah.
the cars.
No, they aren't.
Yeah,
Yes,
they are.
Yes, they are. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
They are. At a much slower speed, yeah.
Yeah, but if they stop,
Which is why they ought to have lights, because they're going that much slower.
so, interesting.
Anybody else? No? All right, so we have some bullet points there, and I guess the next phase would be to send these on to city council to see if they're interested in inserting all or some of these into ordinance. that be correct?
Yeah, so I'm going to guess we'll have a motion to forward the commission's comments to the city council with the recommendation that they evaluate the safety recommendations that we've developed.
Okay.
That also includes the recommendation around insurance?
Yes, we did have that conversation. We can make that recommendation to them that it was as heavily favored, if that's what the board wishes to say.
It's worth consideration at this point. So this is going to be a multi-step process, so this is just the one to get it rolling. All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we transmit our recommendations to the city council via the minutes.
A second.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the first 4 bullet points from our recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to strike the first 4 bullet points.
I don't, 3 of the 4 make sense to me, but I really do favor keeping the stop lamp since they will be traveling in the same lane with other vehicles. I like seeing them on bicycles. I mean, I want to know they're there.
See,
I think Larry makes good sense. In the discussions I've had with neighbors, whatever, that have their cars, one of the things they said is, I love to go down and watch the sunset. And when you remind them that, no, you can't use them a half hour before the sun sets, they go, really? So I'd like to think we don't need lights because people are going to comply, but one of the reasons we even talked about about this is there's been a lot of non-compliance with what we already have on the books. So I'd err on the side of safety, but I'd go along with 3 of the bullets, but I'd want to keep that stop lamp.
okay, for lack of support for the amended motion, we'll revert back to the original motion. Any other discussion?
Does the recommendation to city council include, it includes the insurance conversation? Yes, and then does it include the one person per seat thing?
Since we're talking about what's in the memo, I think it
Okay.
might make sense to amend the motion to include those 2 points so that it's a complete motion with what's been written in here as well as what we've talked about.
Todd, would you amend your motion?
Yeah, so we're going to include specifically insurance and 2 persons.
2
maximum
persons per seat.
Per seat, excuse me.
Meaning the bench, that's only 2, not,
Or, I guess I'd suggest we
Insurance and seating arrangement. Just do an umbrella, okay?
Okay.
but that doesn't address the maximum seating.
No, we'll just call it seating arrangement, because you have to remember, this is going to get put into legalese, and then we're going to have public hearing, and you can hash some
Sure.
of that out then. This is more like a workshop memo to do the draft, so.
Will we have a public hearing?
I don't know. This is where we would be talking about doing a code of ordinances. If they want to do an ordinance, which is likely, then this would be something that would have to go to them. But as you know, sometimes they send things your way just to get a public hearing and get that extra public output, or input rather. So it could come back here for a public hearing.
But it could not.
All right,
Second for that amended motion?
no,
second.
okay, it's been moved and supported for the motion plus the 2 amendments to that motion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. On to new business. Now, as you know, we had a lot of short-term rental last year and the marijuana, and I expect 2020 is going to be the year of revetment review. And here we go. Number 7, 742 Monroe.
Thank you. So what is before you today is 742 is looking at doing a modified revetment. They've already done an emergency repair. And if Jared can get me that portion of the plans, I can show you what we're talking about here. And just to kind of let you know, the homeowner, Sue Rosenheim, is here. Also here is city engineer Mike Dopp and Daryl Veldman from Edgewater Resources. And I'll kind of give you the overview, and then Daryl can kind of come through and kind of walk this over. In 2018, 742 Monroe came in front of the Harbor Commission and Planning Commission to get a shoreline protection system that consisted of some sandbags and did get some armoring. However, with the erosion and the the wave action, as well as the rising of the water, that has kind of, I wouldn't say failed, but it's not working as well. So they've had to come in and do some emergency repairs. In addition to that, parts of where Monroe Boulevard and 742 meet, it's starting to kind of dig into that side. And so what the homeowner is asking and what the city is asking is, we're going through the process of what a shoreline protection system revetment review would look like if we pulled permits for not just 742, but potentially for the South Beach. We have here on the plans showing this is the current property owner's property line, and right here in the corner is where the wave action is coming in and really just digging into the side of the bluff, as well as into the side almost to the house. So the proposal is to put these geotextile bags in a stacking formation here, to kind of take the brunt of that, also come up about 40 feet, and then to curve back so that you don't get the undermining behind it. And that is the temporary measure, as well as, and then here would become armor stoning all the way around here, kind of in front of those geotextiles bags, and Daryl can kind of go into that, but this would be occurring on city property, about 40 feet into the South Beach heading to the north. The Harbor Commission did review this at their special meeting on Tuesday. They did have a number of questions that I think were answered, and those were in the minutes. They ultimately did make a recommendation, and I can read that to you here. That they recommended to the Planning Commission and the City Council approval of the plans upon all proper permitting from Eagle and the Army Corps of Engineers at no cost to the city, along with the execution of a license agreement to place the stone and access. So a license agreement with the city of South Haven. So that was their recommendation. And then so what we're doing here tonight is that second phase. No permits have been pulled by the city because ultimately this would have to go to City Council, as this is a city park, city property. But I'll turn this over to Daryl and he can kind of walk through what the plans are. There's a point if you need that.
Awesome. Yes, you are correct. There's going to be the year of revetments, and we had that this past year. We've got numerous clients all up and down the coast in Michigan and Indiana. Similar situations to this. They've never seen water this high. I mean, it's probably this high in the 80s. And it's that corner piece. It's where the waves are coming in. And this property is a perfect property that shows the worst waves are actually coming out of Green Bay, which is the longest stretch, which means that gives the wind more time to whip the waves up. And by the time they hit the shore, it does the damage that we're seeing here at Rosenhain's property. So with the current permit, we talked to Eagle and the Army Corps of Engineers, and we were able to extend that armor stone along the side of Rosenhain's property to protect that immediate exposed area. So quick fix, get that taken care of. The challenge is now is we want to make sure that that stays in place. So we'd like to wrap that around the corner, and that would be onto city property. This is not an uncommon practice. Usually with most of these projects, you're asking the neighbor if you can go on their property to help your revetment stay in place so it doesn't get flanked. And we see a lot of that. So we try to get the neighbor's cooperation to extend that revetment onto that property some distance. And it can be anywhere from 20 feet to 100 feet. It just depends on the situation. So this neighbor here is the city of South Haven. So that's why we're here before you tonight. traditionally, with the permitting process, which takes a long time, this would be a three-step process. The first step was taken care of already. Brian DeBest was out there, got that armoring along the edge of her property. The second step would be like an emergency step where we'd have bags placed out on the, adjacent to that property, because that's something that the state and the Army Corps of Engineers will allow relatively quick. And then the long term, which would be like in 6 months, they'll finally permit you to put the armor stone in. We've been talking to the state and the Army Corps, and what they would like to do is extend the existing permit and just say, you've done the whole process, you've done all your due diligence and research, let's just extend that out onto the neighbor's property. Obviously, before we can do that, we need the blessing of the city, and that's what we're here for right now, is to talk to you about that. Also, just, I don't know if you've been to the site, but north of there, it's not only eroding on her property, it's on your property. And it's almost a vertical clay bluff that's there now. That sand's all gone, all the vegetation is gone. Our surveyors were out there today collecting topographical information so we can get a good map to show the state and the Army Corps. And you can already start to see cracks up that bluff, which is indicating that that eventually will slide down onto your beach. So with this revetment in place, that should stop that. I say should, I don't know if we can control Mother Nature, but we're doing our best. When we put that armor stone in front, it should take care of it. But when you start getting cracks like that in that bluff, it could go in a month. You get the water in there, the freeze thaw, so maybe it's going to be in the spring when that slides down. So again, just a little history of what's going on out there if you haven't been to the property. So that's a snapshot of why we're here tonight. I guess if you have any other questions or specific. Oh, there you go. There's the bluff. I am standing, I took this picture before Tuesday's meeting. I am standing on Rosenhain's property looking due north, and that is your bluff there. It's pretty raw. You can see all the vegetation is out of there. And you can see to the right, there's geotextile blanket there, protecting that existing ground. Some of that ground was disturbed just as an access point to bring in the revetment for that emergency repair. But Brian DeBest, doing the best he can to stabilize the surface, stabilize the area down below. That would need a revetment out in front of it. So that's our snapshot scenario of what we have. I guess open to questions at this time, Kate? Is that
Sure.
appropriate?
I'll leave the commissioner.
Does the commission have any questions for him?
I do.
Okay.
If the permitting agencies can come through with just an extension, would you bypass the geotextile bag
Absolutely.
steps?
Absolutely, yeah. We want to get this done as fast as possible. And the normal steps is what you see there. We're trying to cut a step out of the process. We really don't want to put the geotextile bags in there because it's not a long-term solution. I mean, we've lived in these communities long enough. We know how powerful those waves are. They'll tear those bags up in like a year or two.
Yeah, and then you add some ice and some debris with it, and
There you go.
you
And
got
you start-
jaws working on you.
It starts poking holes in those bags. So we're trying to eliminate that step, but if they take 6 months to approve it, we've got a raw shoreline here, and it's not a good situation. So we have that up there just in case we need it. We're trying to avoid it. Thank you for that question.
Do you have any more? I had a question.
I have a question, too.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm curious, the agreement with the city, that's not going to be for us to do, but city council would, how long an agreement might that be, would you propose?
As far as like
You pro-
maintenance or,
It's a permanent license agreement.
Yeah.
City engineer is here. Maybe he could better speak to the license agreement parameters. Mike, you want to come up?
Yeah, they would, the property owner would be responsible for any maintenance of the wall going forward. I haven't really looked at it, but I would expect it would be like a indefinite type of thing. As far as the project, staff, we don't really have any negative comments about it. I see that it is something that's necessary or would be helpful to protect that house, the way that when the winds come out of the northwest, it just kind of hits right in that corner and keeps pounding away. I would say at this point with the water levels where they are, it's really not, we don't feel that it's getting close enough yet to Monroe Boulevard that we would put something there yet for if the house wasn't there. But since this is where we're at right now, the house is there, so we don't have an objection to placing that there. The only probably kind of negative type side that to the city is we will lose some footprint along the toe of the bluff of beach going forward, but there is a positive. I mean, we are getting some protection out of this. So.
And Mike, as I recall in reading the minutes from the Harbor Commission meeting, it's clear that there'll be no city money spent on this, correct?
That, yes, that was the Harbor Commission's.
That's the Harbor Commission's recommendation. Of course,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen at City Council, but that is the recommendation that the Harbor Commission was very adamant about, and I can't really speak for that board.
Yeah, I
Mike,
thought,
you mean as far as actual building material?
and-
Because I'm assuming staff's going to have quite a bit of time in this, so there is a cost to the city.
yes, I guess that clarification
Okay.
is what I mean, Tim. The actual construction material, the
Yeah.
construction effort, what they're going to pay the best.
Okay.
Yes, I assume our engineers are going to be involved in the, but I thought that was pretty well covered in the discussion at the Harbor Commission. They're one of the commissioners
Yeah, it
being pretty
was.
firm about that. And the second thing is, and certainly they have all my sympathy, but losing 40 feet of beach is no small deal for those of us on the south side who are watching our beach disappear daily. But I mean, that's the way it is, and that's Mother Nature, but it's no small concern.
All right, Rosalie, you have a
Okay.
question for Mike or for?
Just going back to the Monroe Boulevard thing, I mean, that really kind of caught my attention, that it could actually start to undercut a little bit in that corner. So that is a concern. I mean, we're certainly seeing roads and stuff being affected by the lake now.
I would say if the water gets much higher, and right now, nobody really knows.
Right, I know
It
nobody
could
knows.
start, a down cycle at this point. We may have peaked, but nobody really knows.
So I
at
might
this
have
point-
lakefront property. I live
At
on the
this
road.
point, if it got much higher, then we would maybe need to look into it. But at
Okay.
this point, we feel there's enough property, so to speak, still
Right now.
out there.
Okay.
If you were to look at maps, aerial photography, this is roughly where the water was back in '86. So this is in a similar state. I would say it looks a little worse in this location right now because I don't know when, but in the past, we had put a bunch of fill along that area, kind of created a little more of a vertical cliff in this location, so.
And then just, one of the challenges that we hear is that the more we do with this, that it impedes people walking down the beach because they do have that right of way. So there simply won't be any unless they climb over stuff or they can't. It's done. Once this
Well,
is built.
I would say right now, where the water's at
Oh,
and where
there
this
is no
property
beach.
is.
Right.
You can't really walk past this property as it
Right.
is, because the water's pretty much up to where the revetment is on the west side of the house.
Okay. I'm sorry, he came up, yeah.
A comment on that?
Yeah,
When that bluff slides, it's going to slide onto the beach. So you're going to lose the beach either way. It's either going to be this mud or whatever that is, or it'll be the stone revetment. If the stone revetment's there, you might end up actually having more beach than if this bluff slides in. You know, how much beach is that gonna take? Mike and I can try to crystal ball that.
Oh, I
but
know.
We don't know, but the reality is, that's gonna slide soon. And it's gonna slide onto the beach, and it's gonna take 15 feet, 20 feet, I don't know, but
Wow.
it'll take some of that. So I just wanted to
Okay.
address those
Yeah, we're
concerns.
about the same
you
way.
brought up.
Thank you.
I had the similar question that Rosalie did as well about public access to the beach. And I do want to clarify will we have a contract then as far as maintenance? And I'm assuming then that the owner will be paying for the armor stone and all of that. And they will also be paying for maintenance. I just want to make sure that public money is not going into private.
Yes, that could be included or would be included in the license agreement.
And that might be part of your recommendation tonight. You're here to kind of, one, review this like we've done for other shoreline protection systems, but as the Harbor Commission did, what we're looking to do here is get comments and get these boards to review this project in advance to go to City Council. One, if this did pass, then they would consider what's going on here. If it didn't pass, then that kind of would complicate things, but what the City Council is looking at is whether or not this would proceed like any other shoreline protection system. And then two, what are your comments as citizens of the community and what you're hearing from your neighbors? What are the conditions that you would recommend to the City Council, just similar to the Harbor Commission? So if that is that the cost is borne by the property owner, or that the city shares costs, I would make that as part of your recommendation.
Yes, and those are the comments I'm hearing in the community, that no public money should be spent for private interests. The other one is, if we do put this extra revetment in, will that cause erosion further north up on the beach?
Daryl, you want to answer that? I believe the way that they've designed it to kind of toe back in on an angle is to try to prevent it, but I'll let you answer that.
Exactly. Well, we're trying to stay within the area that's been disturbed. We don't want to go any further. We don't want to, will it happen in the future? I don't know. I mean, is the lake going to stay where it's at? It's going to be up a foot higher next summer. I don't know.
Well, my concern really is the crashing of the waves, and as we're seeing now with the tow in there, as you explained why that's happening,
Right.
will something similar continue to happen along the shoreline as people put up more and more of these revetments?
Well, and that's why we're trying to tow it back dive it back into the existing embankment so that we've got a nice solid surface there. Now, what happens with the existing bluff, up to the blue stairs and beyond, I really don't know. I mean, as you head further north on your beach, you're actually getting protected by the pier heads. So those waves that are coming out of Green Bay, for instance, they're going to hit the pier heads. And then that area that would be called in the shadow of those, that area is, I'm going to say protected, but it's better protected than the area that would be over here. So can I crystal ball that? I really can't. I wish I could tell you. But we think that's a solid plan. And this is what we've seen work up and down the coast. So our experience says this would be a good situation for Rosenhains and the city.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I do, one question for you, Mike, it's kind of off of this one, but out of all the homes south from the pier to the city limit, other than this home, do you see any other ones that are likely in danger anytime soon? And the reason I ask that, because I want to ask an infrastructure question. Should one of these homes teeter on the brink, turning off city utilities so it doesn't affect the rest of the line, is there some thought process that's been done on that already?
We hadn't really thought about, quite honestly. I don't know of any other homes that, I believe there are a few homes that are getting closer, but they're in the process of having revetments put in, I think on the end at Chippewa. There's a couple of homes that are in the process of having material placed. I would think that if it's coming, we'll see it coming, and we'd be able to turn those utilities off prior to. I don't think we're going to have a storm that's going to take a whole house,
Right.
take 50 feet or 80 feet out at one time. So,
Okay, thank you. I think that's about it. Unless you guys have any further discussion, I'll entertain a motion. Larry doesn't have to do the motions all the time, you know.
We know that word.
Mr. Chairman, do we have public comment prior to this? Or?
We can. I don't think anybody's here to speak about it, but after the last couple asked, but I will ask, does anybody wish to speak on this project? No? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Just hang on, Larry, and let's see if somebody does.
Go, Larry, go.
All right.
I'm simply not certain what motion we're being asked for here. Are we simply making a motion to forward our suggestions to the council?
Similar to the Harbor Commission.
Yep.
Then I make a motion that we forward the comments from the Planning Commission on the plan as discussed and the review of the Harbor Commission's minutes.
We don't have to do anything with the Harbor Commission minutes. I don't think.
We can support them,
Yeah, we can.
which I think we pretty much are.
That's,
Right.
yeah.
Are there any other comments that you want to put? I guess I would phrase it more that you're making a recommendation to approve.
Yeah.
And if you want to structure it anything like the Harbor Commission minutes or put, yeah, they asked for conditions on proper permitting, execution of a license agreement. There was also the cost issue. Whatever you'd like to put in there, I guess I would feather that into your motion.
Before you make the motion, let me ask you, is there anything different from the Harbor Commission that you would do?
No. I think they have covered everything that I questioned, certainly. So no, there's nothing in addition that I would suggest.
And they may have covered my comments in that as well, but I just need to make sure that that there will be an obligation or a contract with the homeowner regarding maintenance and of the installation.
That was part of the license agreement that was discussed, correct?
We have not actually seen the model license agreement. What it was is a recommendation to execute a license agreement so that liability, the actual placement and activity, working on the city property was done. I think that because we don't know what's in the license agreement, making that recommendation for ongoing maintenance would be an appropriate condition if you so feel.
And the Harbor Commission also covered not to use public money for, okay, just wanted to make sure that that was in there.
Let me try again. Make a motion that we forward to the council our agreement with the findings in the Harbor Commission with the stipulation that we want to reinforce that no public monies will be used in this project and that all future maintenance of the improvements are the responsibility of the property owners.
I'll support that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? Does that motion hit everything you guys want?
I just read something in the minutes, though, or in some of these comments, that the city could possibly apply for emergency funding or something.
What that
about?
was is, we have been talking about if there is going to be disaster funding through the federal government or the state government, the city would obviously throw their hat in the ring. My understanding with emergency funding is that it would be for public structures, public infrastructure, I do not believe that it would be, I don't know if it will be for private homeowners, because it's that pot of money that hasn't really fleshed out. It's just something that people are talking about because this is the topic of the state. This is what's affecting lakeside communities up and down Lake Michigan. So it was something that was brought up, it was a question, and yes, if there is disaster relief funding, the city will attempt it, but there, again, there's no guarantee that we would get it.
And then would that money then help offset this project or contribute to it?
I
See, that's
can't-
what was,
I can't
see where that
say,
was, yeah.
because this is all pure, it's
Yeah,
just,
I
it's
know.
looking in the
Okay.
future,
Fair enough.
and I just can't.
Can I make
Federal funding is about as questionable as what the lake's going to do next month.
Okay.
Go ahead, Todd.
You know, I supported this motion, and I still do. Implicit, you know, we've all said no public monies. I mean, we're going to, the city and city staff and our attorneys and our engineers are spending time on it right now, and they will continue to spend time on it. So we are going to have time and resources and city staff. So I suppose if the city council wants to try to, you know, pull back some of those expenses, you know, because I'm sure they can track them pretty easily for this project and other projects that we've talked about. Maybe we can.
Should the motion stipulate that no public monies be used in the construction and maintenance?
We're not, our motion is a recommendation, it's not an action item, so.
I believe you have installation or construction and maintenance in your proposal.
Marcia, just to be sure, was the motion clear enough?
I can help her out and show her what the Harbor Commission is
Yeah.
using. Plus, I made some notes about obligation for ongoing all future maintenance to be borne by the property owner, and no public monies to be used for the project. It doesn't really go into the purchasing of the materials or the installation, but I think it's a pretty blanket statement that might effectuate your goals.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion, or we'll go to a vote now, and we'll do a roll call on this one, please.
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Placati,
Yes.
Varney,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. Okay, the motion's approved. That'll go on to city council. All right, thank you for coming in tonight. Then I'll just add, as the year's going to progress, I think we're going to see more and more of the folks that are affected by the shoreline wanting or even expecting the city to pay for a lot of this. And that's going to be the ongoing discussion, you know, whether it's in the river or on the lake shore. And it's a tough discussion, but I think that is part of the gamble of having homes on the waterfront. And I don't think it's fair that you ask the citizens that live inland to help pay for that when they're helping with roads and infrastructure already. So
That's correct.
it'll be an interesting year, to say the least. All right, let's move on. New business item 8, short-term rental snapshot report, which was very interesting, by the way. All right, Kate.
Much anticipated report by the public, and I'm sure the planning commission. There's lots of numbers in here, and I was doing my best, scratching out some hieroglyphics this afternoon, going through them. What I did find is that we do have a typo, and I do want to let you know, at the bottom of the first paragraph on your page 3358 of 58 of the packet, so it reads, the last sentence of the first paragraph reads, based on these calculations, which will be explained below, 176 new business designations will be available for the 2020 calendar year, in addition to and it states 408. That is an incorrect number. That was from a previous version of this memo. The correct number is 389. So if we'll just scratch out 480, 408, and 389 is the correct number, it would then read to the 389 that are certified on hold or certified within the past 12 months. So having made that change, what we have here is we have our 4-to-1 ratio with taking existing housing units and then exempting out those attached condominiums, and then the housing units that were constructed in the PUDs, which are, Ryan came up with the number of 667. Those units are exempted out of the total census number. And that gives us 2,827 units divided by 5, which is the 4-to-1 ratio, gives us 565. So 565 is the total number of units that this report is suggesting that we have for the 2020 year, which ultimately means that we have 176 permits available for 2020. I did happen to pull our 2019 snapshot, and the results for that one, so in 2019, 567 permits were allowed, but there was already 427 certified, which we are seeing here as a decrease in the number of business units, or I'm sorry, business non-exempt. So from 427 to 389, but they did also give us the formulation of the personal, so we have about 60 of those permits. We have about 170, which are attached condominiums in the PUDs. And so 565, you minus out, so total altogether, all of our STRs, personal, business, exempt, non-exempt, we're looking at 619. So they've put in some really nice maps in here, kind of parceling out the city, showing you where the concentration is. No surprise, it's where it has been, which is the southwest portion of the city. But you are seeing a decrease in the business type, but you are seeing them push into the areas that were those relief valves, which were attached condos and PUDs. So the other thing that I've incorporated in here was an STR revenue report. We had a request, which really isn't germane to the snapshot, but it's something that people are wondering about is, are we looking at the fees? Are we looking at increasing or raising them? And what finance has kind of put together is that we had, between personal and business, revenue of $282,000. However, with expenses, we had expenses of $331,000, leaving us with a deficit or a loss of almost $50,000. I can explain that the administrative cost, which is the highest category here, of $188,000, that's primarily payroll. So, there was a few things I wanted to hit on the, besides the numbers, which they're a little complicated, but we got through that. I wanted to kind of go over some of the factoids. The bedroom breakdown is maybe interesting for some folks. The additional statistics where they say the average stay is 2 to 7 days, 88 registered rentals have frontage on Lake Michigan. Interestingly enough, of our 619, only 429 are advertising online. This is coming from our third-party vendor, Host Compliance. 74% of your STRs are single-family rental homes. Your business designations, according to Host Compliance, make up 84% of all your short-term rentals. The inspections, which were completed, so 620 inspections were done. We currently have 619. There's always a little bit of shuffling going on. We did have one fellow, there's just a lot of things moving around. So some people want to get one, and then maybe they go through the inspection process, pay for it, and then, oh, you know what, wife doesn't want to do that, or what they say. I did have the inspectors kind of talk about some of the things they were finding, and these are common issues that they were coming up with. The GFCI seemed to be very common, as well as smoke detectors. And I asked the inspector why the smoke detector. That should be a no-brainer, right? But I guess if you were in your first floor and you didn't think about the basement, so that's where people were not seeing that. So that's one of the primary reasons why most people didn't pass their first inspection. In fact, only about 26% of the 620 passed on their first round. So it was missing smoke detectors and GFCIs in the laundry. That was the common reason. We did have 47 missed inspections, so what that meant is that the inspectors went out there, nobody was there to meet them. So they would get back with the person and reschedule. All the missed inspections were completed, except for one where the fellow actually sold his house, so that was done. We did put some reasons in here as to why the business STRs are decreasing. We're seeing people combine properties. We're seeing people looking at long-term living. We're seeing people who don't want to pay the registration fees. We're seeing also people changing their designation from business to personal. And as for infractions, we have host compliance as one of the ways that we can look for online presence for improper, renting without a license. We did identify 29 properties where they were operating as an unregistered STR. A vast majority, according to the inspector, were unaware or misinformed about the program. In fact, he told me a nice anecdote about a fellow he didn't even know his house was rented. I guess his wife put it up and just to see if she could, what kind of response she would get. So once he was notified that this was an infraction, it was immediately taken down. But what you're seeing, 29 out of 620 is pretty good. And we do have people come in and tell us things, which is nice. A lot of zoning and code enforcement is complaint driven. That's just the long and the short of it. When we do get a complaint, when we do get information that maybe something is not registered, we do go out, we make contact, and either they send in their information. We've got lots of registrations that way, or they'll take down their advertisement. And because this was, in the past, we've only had 8 complaints received by the police department regarding STRs, and they were all noise related, and they seem to be separate incidents. I don't have the disposition of that, but it didn't seem like it was too much, but I was looking for more information on that, but I didn't get that in time, so. Does anyone have any questions about the report?
I have a couple questions that
Sure.
citizens have asked me about, which I couldn't answer for them. Can you define for me what an existing housing unit is? And let me ask the question this way.
Sure.
I was able to help them understand that we pulled the PUDs out, and we pulled the condos out. Let me just say it frankly. Their question to me was, does an apartment count as a housing unit?
Yes, so a housing unit, and I guess it shouldn't be just called a housing unit. The ordinance calls it a dwelling unit. A dwelling unit is what we're talking about here, in my mind, correct? Would you say? Yeah. So the dwelling unit is, so if I had a house and I divided it up into 3 spots, and each apartment had its own entry, had its own kitchen, bathroom, and separate living facilities, that is a 3-unit house. Now, did I violate zoning by just breaking up a house into 3 units in a single-family residential? Or, if you're carving up a house, people will let you know, or did you have a house that's a non-conforming use, it's an existing grandfathered duplex? So yes, you're looking at, the housing unit is actually a misnomer, it's the dwelling unit.
The follow-up to that was this. Why do we include them in the base when most apartments under contract cannot sublet? You can't, they could not be used. Certainly, we have, I can't think of the names of our apartments, like Green Street Apartments. There's probably 12 in there, 10, 12. I know that their contract does not allow them to be used as short-term vacation rentals. So by including them in the base, we're actually making more licenses available to other people, when in reality, they can't be used anyways. And I would say the same thing is probably true of any apartment complexes that are using federal money through Section 8. Certainly is true for our city-owned properties. I don't think our city-owned houses, do we allow
We don't own city. The
We
city
don't?
doesn't
Okay,
own any
okay,
housing, so
Okay,
that's
we used
easy.
to, sorry. Sorry.
You're talking about the housing commission houses,
Yes.
I suggest.
Yeah, housing commission houses.
Well, I'll be honest with you, this all goes back to your ordinance. Your ordinance says we use the census data, and that's what we use. But for what we've already carved out, that's the number that we use. If there's if there's a desire to modify that, to start pulling out things, I'm just gonna tell you, it's just gonna get a little hairy. You're all of a sudden gonna start parsing things out, and I understand the idea behind it, but if that's something the commission is interested in doing, staff will undertake that analysis, but now we're starting to pick out areas of the city, and
Yeah, it's.
As we go
but please
further.
understand, common sense-wise, people are look at this and say, why would you include something in the base that can't be used as a short-term vacation rental? I mean, I would think it would be an easy thing to adjust our base to say that, that properties which by law cannot be used for short-term rentals are excused, certainly we can find out how many apartments are at, what's called Maple
Glen.
Glen, and take those out of the base number. I don't know. This was a great piece of work. I'm so pleased that it was done the way it was, but just passing along to those in the city that those are the questions I'm getting that says, hey, look, that's not a very fair count.
And just to clarify, it's just the housing that is for assisted housing. So any apartment, if it's full price, that's okay to have in there, or is only assisted housing apartments that you would pull out?
If their contract does not allow them to sublet their apartment for short-term rental, then it shouldn't be in the base.
And that's a fair assessment, but a contract can be changed like that, whereas other things may not. If you're receiving federal housing to get the project done, you're going to be receiving that, and you're going to be having a long-term agreement with that. Whereas if you're a property management company and you don't have that, and you're doing a month-to-month contract, I guess that
Kate,
would be my
I understand, but I'm
cautionary tale
I'm
with
just
that.
coming back to common sense from what residents look at.
Sure.
Apartments are not going to be used for short-term vacation rental. They're just not going to be. So why, by including them in the base, all we're doing is benefiting the people that want to turn another property into a short-term vacation rental. We did this, we spent all the time we did on this commission, all the time we did with the council to try and get our handle around the expansion of short-term vacation rentals in this town. So let's do it fairly, and if we are including those numbers in the base that inflates the number of permits we allow, then I think it's worth looking at.
Okay, well, that's another discussion. This is a receipt of a report. And so the main thing you want to do here, I would think, is ask if the numbers, or the accuracy of the numbers and maybe some things like that. And then if you want to get into adjusting the ordinance at some point, that's
I
another
understand, Chairman.
discussion.
But I think it's germane to ask for definitions during this too.
Sure.
And I think the citizens are due a definition of what an existing unit is.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
Yeah, with apologies, if this is our second year of doing this?
Yes.
I mean, if our denominator isn't right, then our product is not going to be right either. And there's a lot about this ordinance that I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand why condos, friends of mine who have condos and you do short-term rental aren't included in this.
I'm with you, and actually, you could probably go back and look at some of our meetings, and you can actually see those discussions.
Yeah, they're messy.
Because I was on the same side you are on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, does that ordinance prevent us from researching and publishing more accurate data?
Well, I believe the ordinance, and Nick can correct me, but I believe we cited the census data as the benchmark that we measured upon.
Yeah.
And
Mike and I did a majority and minority report that's how we came up with our numbers. And we could probably get you that.
So the ordinance specifically incorporates the census data. It also incorporates the definition of dwelling unit in the zoning ordinance, and dwelling unit includes apartments. I think that was largely for practical reasons. As Kate was kind of alluding to, the Section 8 housing or assisted housing, that's easy to identify, and we could write something into the code to exclude that pretty easily. But once you start getting into private arrangements within a building, the city doesn't even have any records of those, and as Kate said, they could change quickly. And it would be, just from an administrative perspective, that would be really difficult to do, I think. But I mean, it's something we could look at if there's enough interest in it. But my guess is that's why I think we chose the numbers that we readily have available in coming up with how to calculate the ratio. Yes.
And I can kind of see that. I think that was probably just something we really overlooked. I mean, using the census data. But I think the purpose of this, too, is to review.
We didn't overlook that.
Oh, no,
We
but I
used
mean,
it.
how that might skew the denominator, right? The Section 8 or the subsidized housing. I'm just guessing that's at least 60 or more dwelling units. So that's all. And I think the fact that we review this after a year, I got the impression that if there was something that needed changing or tweaking, that now would be the time. So I know it'd be a pain in the butt, but I don't know. But some comments, I'm sorry, Chair, did you want
No,
to say something
no,
on that?
go
Okay.
ahead.
So 100% of everything that has an STR, a permit, has been inspected.
That's correct.
That's
In
awesome.
fact, we did one more inspection than we had to.
Okay, so there's a yay there.
It's not a wrestling word.
And then what I did point out, at least in chatting, that 26 were just ready to, or only 26 made it through the inspection process the first time.
Yes, 26% of
Right,
that 600.
26%. So one of the goals of all of this was safety.
That's correct.
So I think that one of the major goals of this whole ordinance was achieved. So that's another yay.
It was, and so as you know, for business units, those units would be re-inspected next year. I'm going to guess that they're going to be, the next year's inspection rate's probably going to look a lot better. Sure. Now personals, they already have theirs for this year, so they would skip next year. But yes, I would agree that that is really kind of effectuating that goal of making sure that things are safe. If only 26, and not that they're going through and just trying to find someone to flunk them, but
pretty
they've got a
basic,
list.
yeah.
And we've published the list, we've shown people the form, we try to tell you, this is what we're looking for, because we want you to pass. I mean, I think the average time was between 15 to 30 minutes. And the more, maybe an agent was with somebody or a property manager, they knew what we were looking for, and they already knew what to fix. So I think those are the goals, and that's one of them that's been met.
Is there a list of short-term rentals that can easily be accessed by the public? Like,
Everything's online through BSNA, so if you know of a property, no, we don't keep a list on the city's website. I'd be honest with you, there's things moving all the time.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
constantly records.
that was
being
just a question
changed.
for me.
Yeah.
You said BS what?
BSNA, which is our financial software where you can do your online billing, you can look up parcel records, building department. If you want to go see if someone's got a permit for something, you can go online on the city's
Really?
website. Yep.
Oh.
And if you go down to the permits, you can go down there and see if they have a short-term rental permit, if it's a business, if it's personal, if it's been paid.
That has to be posted?
And yes, it has to be posted at their house, but this is an online record that anyone can access, and you can look at anything.
Okay. That was another question. Okay, thank you.
Larry, do you have anything?
Just one more comment. I kind of opened with a tough question for you. I recognize, I mean, I wasn't on this committee when the vice was crushing staff, you know.
Lucky you.
And this
okay, you
is, this
crossed
is
your
great
hands.
work, and I spent a lot of time looking over this and trying to go backwards and understand, reverse engineer what you all had done here, and it's like sausage, they say, you don't want to see it being made, and it's, so yeah, it's a great report, thank you.
And Kate and I have been through it twice.
Yeah, and I also think that the elephant in the room here is that, there's a lot of passionate discussion about this, that we should repeat it for people that are watching, because I know there's people watching. During all of the public comments that went on for, it seemed like a year and a half, the people who live and work in South Haven don't want an STR next to their house. This is viewed as blight for the overwhelming majority of our residents. And we should say that, I think, out loud sometimes.
I just want to say that reading the report, it exceeded my expectations. After we worked on it for so long, that you were able to bring it together to some form that you were able to manipulate and to get information from. I mean, because it can become so complex, and we could be digging deeper and deeper into everything. But this year, I think it was a valiant effort, and I just really want to commend you for the work that you've done and the report that you created.
Well, I thank you for your comments. In fact, I can't take any credit for any of this. I really have to commend the building department, our team, GIS, Ryan Bosher, Nick Page, Marcia, Carol Muzak. It's been a fantastic effort by the building and engineering and GIS departments. This could not be done by one person. This was very much a group effort. Nick was involved. It's just been a fantastic group to work with. And yeah, it's been at times a challenge because you're kind of working within the constraints of what was passed. But I think it really came together well in putting out this report and kind of getting through that first year. Implementing something brand new is very difficult. There was a lot of confusing moments, like what do you do with this and how do you move that here? So I cannot praise my team enough for what they've done, and I thank you very much for your comments.
Yes, and certainly, just reading this, you can see that there were many, many hardworking people with many different skills that were all brought together, and that truly is the success of this report.
I would echo that and also point out that this is a seasonal report when the city operates on a different calendar year than this report does. So that probably presented some unique challenges as well. And with that said, if our guy in the back hasn't fallen asleep, if you throw up page 40 on the overhead.
Hopefully it didn't shut off, but, oh, there we go.
I was just going to ask about that.
So I have a few questions regarding the expenses. And specifically the administration expenses, legal fees, and publishing. Are a lot of those expenses related to all the work here with planning, creating the language in city council?
I think that might be part of it, but the administrative expenses, as I said, that's payroll. That is all payroll.
That's straight payroll
That is
for
straight payroll.
enforcement of
That's
the
straight
ordinance.
payroll for everybody who's got their hands on the enforcement and the execution of this ordinance.
Okay, so a year from now, in the next report, we could actually expect to see another negative number of 48,000.
More than likely, it depends, all right? It depends on the number. So obviously, the more revenue we get from business, so the number of businesses licenses will offset your expenses. Whether or not that goes up, but
I was kind of hoping that a lot of these expenses in here were related to the work we had to do at this level to start it up. And if this is operational expense, and we're looking at possibly a $48,000 a year loss, that does not seem like a sustainable ordinance to me.
the numbers are very raw here.
Yeah.
I do not have a breakdown of how much, what we did, and I'll be honest with you, how much Nick's work went into this. I do know that some of these things were factored in already to the $500 number. We knew that we were going to build in some legal fees, and I don't have it in front of me, but we did have that breakdown. There was a PowerPoint presentation because we used Baird and Associates to come up with the short-term rental permit fees. We wanted to go through an analysis of what it would take for city staff and city resources to get this to the finish line and to effectuate and carry out the ordinance. So I do know that, allocations of personnel and allocations of portions of people's time. We're buying equipment because we had to buy more desks and more computers. We hired 2 new people. We hired a third-party vendor, host compliance. Nick's sunk some substantial costs in here. I gotta think that some of his legal fees are in here, but I don't know that because it hasn't really been itemized, and it's been a rough,
Right.
it was a very rushed day, so I don't really have those kind of rough things, but I did promise the Realtor that I would get these out today. So I do know, and I can't really, we can flesh these numbers out, but ultimately what we're seeing here is that, yes, we are gonna be operating in a loss, but we knew that when we passed the $500. We knew it was gonna be a tough sell. I can tell you that there are several people who are very unhappy with that, but I guess what we're trying to say is that we're trying to effectuate the policy that has been provided. And we're not trying to make money, because actually that's
We
not what
can't. We
but
can't.
I guess I wish I had more information for you.
Okay.
When Bayer did its analysis, we knew that the $500 fees were likely lowball and likely to not cover. That was kind of a precautionary step in the first year. So that's something the city council could revisit once these numbers are. I do think they came up with these numbers relatively quickly, and once they're finalized, that could be presented to city council. As to legal, my best guess is, well, first off, I'm not sure if any ordinance development was in this or not. I'd have to go back and look at the time of the adoption of the ordinance to know if it's covered within that time span. I do think that was likely to go down once the ordinance was in its first year. A lot of property owners were kind of challenging the ordinance in various ways. We had a number of letters from property owners' attorneys. My guess is that will die down as the ordinance moves forward. And in addition, we had a lot of just implementation questions.
We did.
That required legal review in the first year. And again, I think those will die down as the ordinance goes on. So I don't think on the, I think that's probably true of administrative expenses.
Well,
I
actually,
think,
now that I'm looking, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but
That's
now that
okay.
I'm looking at the date, 1/1 to 1/19, we formulated this, and this was passed in 18, so those legal fees were not included in this. So, yeah, I'm going to guess this was the implementation, the few hiccup, I wouldn't call them hiccups, but we had genuine questions of whether or not this is what this means, or this is what that means. So we had a few of those. So when, I know that, as I said, you're taking an ordinance and making it come to life.
well, I think the expectation is we're going to have this report and 2 more for two more years to follow, and then really get a better picture. But from the beginning, I've been talking about when this ordinance gets more complicated and we're taking this section of town out or this zoning out, these costs are going to keep going up because it gets too complicated to operate. So this is the first step, and I just wanted to point that out because you just can't take a $50,000 hit every year to do a short-term rental ordinance. So we will see. Okay. So other than the corrections that Kate identified at the introduction of this report, was there anything else? Everybody's good with the data set and?
Very good.
Yeah, okay. So I am going to accept the report by unanimous consent and move us on to construction standards memoranda, new business item 9. And Kate, start us off, or Nick, who's going to do this one?
Well, I'll just kind of, where we started, which was, there were some concerns raised with a recent downtown construction project, and it was the will of this board that a subcommittee be formed to delve into essential business district construction standards and kind of flesh out what can be changed, what were the aggravations, what went wrong, and what could we do to fix it. We met 3 times. There was 4 members, Larry Heinig, Tim Stegman, and Todd, I believe, and then
Mike.
Sorry. I didn't forget you, Mike. I just have poor memory. So what we did come up with is we had 3 very good sessions, and then we brought Nick in, and he told us we can't do any of that except for strengthening our code enforcement. So I'd like to have Nick kind of walk through his memo for that and kind of explain what we could do.
I don't think the bad news was quite that harsh. But, so the state the state of Michigan, I think about 20 years ago, adopted a statewide construction code that preempted the local construction codes that existed before that time to try to simplify things for contractors and put the state all on one standard. The effect of that is that localities don't have as much leeway with construction regulations as they used to. So for issues like this, there's essentially two things that the city could look to do to address some of the issues raised by the committee. And the first category of potential changes is just more vigorous enforcement of the construction code. Some of the things we discussed and some things that we know other communities do. One is the idea of a pre-construction meeting. There's nothing in the construction code that prohibits you from doing that, and I think it is a practice that other communities use where various stakeholders within the city, being the building department, the building official, could meet with a construction contractor up front and just kind of discuss expectations, discuss potential impacts on property owners. City staff can have conversations with adjoining property owners to see if there are any concerns up front with a project, and can then kind of mediate and relay those concerns to a construction contractor. And if needed, can kind of propose alternatives, or at least ask if there is a possibility of alternatives of ways of doing things where there's a concern. And that can be done even when the city might kind of lack authority to affirmatively require a different method. Just kind of getting that conversation going is one thing to look at. The other thing to look at is the construction code does have a whole entire chapter that spells out requirements for in construction, how things are supposed to be done during a construction project in terms of protecting pedestrian right-of-ways, in terms of protecting the city right-of-way, and those types of things. And we talked about, Kate, just really being diligent with the building department, especially on these downtown projects, making sure that building officials and inspectors are really aware and paying attention to what's going on during those kind of high-profile construction projects. And we even included Chapter 33 in your materials with the highlighted sections that I think do provide some pretty good protections for some of these issues. Even issues we've heard complaints about are covered in that. Some of them, at least, are covered in that section and can potentially be addressed under existing code. In the second category of things that the city could look to do are some kind of things that new regulations that incidentally affect construction but aren't construction regulations as defined by state law, so they would not be preempted. And we listed 4 examples of things that could potentially be done in this area. One are just more rigorous conditions in right-of-way permits. So whenever a construction contractor does anything in the right-of-way or places any equipment in the right-of-way, they have to apply to the building department for a right-of-way permit. And that's an opportunity to impose project-specific requirements where that's those might be beneficial. So that's just kind of one, I guess, leverage point that the city could potentially use in the future. We talked a little bit about the submittal requirements for site plans. We know there were some issues about footings on one of the projects, and you could kind of beef up what needs to be submitted to the city if you think that there's a need to do that, or have some discretionary language in the ordinance about the planning commission can ask for X or Y document. The ones we specifically talked about were footing and foundation plans, but if there's anything else in that category, we could address that through site plan submittal standards. You can potentially regulate construction vibrations through generally applicable noise and vibration ordinances. The city has a noise ordinance on the books. It doesn't currently have any vibration requirements in it. The vibration monitoring technology exists. That would be, I think, a fairly difficult ordinance to develop. I don't currently know anything about how that's measured. Would have to do some scientific research and look to other communities, but that's a possibility, and I don't think that's likely preempted by the state construction code, because it's not directly regulating construction. It would be regulating anything that goes on within the city, and measuring, taking measurements and enforcing on that basis. And then the fourth possible thing to look at would be increasing CBD setbacks. As currently written, the ordinance either requires a 0 setback or a 10-foot setback within the CBD. If you don't think that the 10-foot is sufficient to protect adjoining buildings, you could always increase that or change that language in some way. So those were the kind of ideas that came out of those meetings, and then we'll bring them to the full planning commission for discussion.
Very good, thank you. And I want to thank everybody that was on the ad hoc committee to look at all this. You guys did a lot of work. And what was that, 3 meetings? Yeah, so, excellent. All right, so Rosalie and who else was it?
Jan?
Who was it? Jan. Yeah, Jan. Okay. You weren't on the ad hoc committee, so I will open the floor up for your questions first, if you have any, for Kate and Nick.
I just, to help me understand, I know part of this got started because of the property going on downtown, right? And the vibration and the even potential damage to foundations, along with another company or business right next where, literally things were jiggling on their desk, right? So I see that, there's protection required of adjoining property, and I can read that, and provision shall be made for some things, but I see that the person making the excavation has to do written notice. What else can it do? That's about it? Just, oh, well, your building is going to jiggle? And, see what I mean? I know, am I making any sense here? My question. I mean, I got the sense that you guys weren't real happy with what you couldn't impose because of the state municipal stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah?
It's preemption, so
Okay.
if the state law controls, you really can't, as a local government, preempt. You will be preempted by the state law. It
Okay.
will control.
So what can we tell the businesses next door? That, yes, they have to provide written notice that this is going to happen, but deal with it? Is that basically the answer?
I think the answer, as Nick kind of just stated, that while right now we don't have vibration included in our ordinance, maybe that is what we need to undertake in this coming year, is to delve into those inquiries and look at some scientific evidence as well as other communities and see, as well as monitoring equipment, because you'll have to get some of that, and figure out what's out there and see if we can build that into the ordinance.
I don't know, is that something y'all discussed? Am I allowed to talk to you guys too? In the sense that when you got that, did you lean toward that? I mean,
We talked about measuring vibration a lot, and as Nick pointed out, it's a tough thing to measure. One person's vibration is another person's, hard
I
to
think-
notice it.
Thresholds.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what it comes down to. What's the acceptable threshold?
And I think we also lean towards, wouldn't it be nice if there was more interaction between the contractor and the property owners adjacent? And maybe they'd be, for instance, the jiggling of the desks
Yeah.
at Hart Insurance, there were alternate methods to do that work that wouldn't have caused that vibration. And I don't know if you can legislate people being reasonable to their neighbors.
well, that's what I mean. I mean,
So, yeah. and
what do you
I-
got here?
I agree. I took, Nick's words were very good there. I don't know how we develop a vibration ordinance. Larry, you're probably the expert on that. I don't know how we would, and how often we'd have to use it once we get done with what's being done on Center Street. Or
Yeah.
it's going to be an issue? I don't know.
One thing to mention is there is potentially private liability to the extent a construction project actually physically damages another building or is so disruptive that a business can't operate or something like that. So that should, in theory, keep contractors honest. But that's private between the owners. There's tort liability if you were to vibrate so hard that you would, disturb someone's foundation or something like that. And that exists independently of anything the city does. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but it may not fully satisfy your concerns, but it is a legal remedy that building owners have.
We discussed certain things like when contractors break gas lines. Are the neighbors being notified? Maybe that doesn't happen, and maybe it should be if it's a real danger. Demolition, you have concrete being removed now. There's many ways of doing it, and some are less disruptive than others. So do you enforce how that work is actually done? And according to what Nick was saying, you really can't because of the state, and that's the one we're really after. If you have heavy equipment picking up concrete and just dropping it on the ground to break it up so they can put it in a truck, that's causing a lot of havoc.
Right.
And there's better ways of doing it. But that's what we're looking at, because all the buildings are so close.
Right.
If somebody goes to demolish one, how can you do it in the least impactful, so the other businesses around the area can still keep going and really not be affected?
Yeah, the most satisfying thing for me was keeping sidewalks open, giving that some thought, how that's to be done. We thought about some foreseeable future projects, and where we don't want to have to shut down Center Street businesses, again, or imagine doing that on another busy street. So that was the more satisfying part. Talking about vibration, which we talked about a lot, was not very satisfying because there wasn't an easy solution. Yeah.
I particularly like the part where you discussed what the expectations are. So getting together with the business owners, getting together with the city staff. Now that we've had some experience in this area, we know things to ask and to check off and to talk about with the business owners and also with the developer or the construction folks. So I found that particularly helpful, and it addresses some of the other kinds of things too. And then bringing the city in when you can, like for the right-of-way and that kind of thing, the various departments. But the communication ahead of time, outlining those expectations, and letting the folks know what they are. So.
And I noticed that too, because I know that when we have a festival, and I've been involved in a couple of those, we all get together before the festival, everybody, the fire department, the police department, city staff, all the people that are involved, to talk about not only the expectations, any concerns that might be up, and to assure each other that, we got it handled. So you don't do that right now, and we didn't do that, like, say, for instance, for the apartment, or the condos, on Center there. So that didn't happen ahead of time, like.
Kate can maybe speak to this better. My understanding is the building official would have had meetings with the contractor, but there was no.
Yes, the building official
coordinating.
had meetings with the contractor. I believe Mike had meetings with the
Okay.
contractor.
pre-construction meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I see your permits, and that has to happen.
We did, but I think what might help is bringing adjoining property owners to the table. That there were some really disruptive moments based on what we heard from Tim as being a neighbor there, as well as from Mr. Rummel, and some unorthodox practices going out there. I mean, that were just highly disruptive, and it was a rub down there for most of the summer. So knowing that forestalled that, I think that we've kind of, engineering and building department are trying to put that together and put that in front of our staff, saying, hey, more of these projects are coming. How can we get in front of them? Because ultimately, we're effectuating service, but we're also here to help people, so.
Great.
Okay. So unless there's anything additional you want to add to this, I think we can send it on.
Send it on to who?
Let's get some legislation written up.
Oh, okay.
Do you want us to work on all four, or is there anything in specific that you'd like us to start targeting first?
Well, I think we want to get the site plan reviews going right away. I don't know, I guess we could rank them if that's what you want to do in order of importance.
That might be helpful, because then we can, allocate resources accordingly. And of course, between myself, Nick, and Brad being on the team, he's got access to seeing what other communities are doing around the state with those kind of site plan submittals, and maybe bringing that up to a wider standard, a standard that's more applicable for development.
Only 2, 3, and 4 would require ordinance amendments. The right-of-way permits is just something that can be done
Okay.
administratively, and I think is done, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Make sure that they address, any concerns that they can through those. So 2 is the site plan submittal, 3 was the noise and
Noise.
vibration regulations, and then 4 was the CBD setbacks.
Which one of those was the balcony? Was that part of that?
Balconies, we discussed in the subcommittee, but I didn't include in this memo. I didn't think it was directly
Oh, that's
related
right,
to
it's not in this
construction.
one. Because we want to get that one right in too, right away.
And just to clarify, what the subcommittee ultimately came up with is that they were not in favor of balconies overhanging into the right-of-way, and that they should be recessed into the building envelope, if that's a correct.
Yeah, we made a specific decision on that one for the planning commission to review. I remember that was quite specific.
18 inches.
18 inches,
There you go, that's exactly.
measured by falling icicles.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is even if we haven't discussed that yet, I would assume that if any plans come to the commission, let's say at the February meeting that had a balcony in it, we would automatically impose that, so unless the group votes against it, but I have a feeling the majority is in favor.
Do we want to bring that as an ordinance amendment? Doesn't necessarily have to be in the ordinances because the city's granting license agreements for those balconies. We can just deny them.
Well, I think we want to standardize it,
We
though.
want to put it in.
I don't think we want to leave it as optional.
Okay, so
It's-
bring it as a zoning.
It's a minimum
ordinance.
of that if it goes even further, right?
Okay.
But
We can do
Can put
that.
together an
Mhm.
amendment.
I think item 4 in Nick's list here is something that's going to be fairly simple to handle. I mean, we may have a lot of discussion about it, but it's, the wording in it is not going to be difficult.
Mhm.
So I would see that as relatively high priority. Pick the low-hanging fruit.
All right, so we will,
4, 2, 3, 1.
4, 2, 3, 1, or 4, 2, and then 1 can be worked on, and then
Yeah.
3, the ultimate.
The ultimate, yeah.
Right, okay, then we will work on bringing you a balcony ordinance as well as 4 and 2 almost immediately
Yep.
to tie in with the report.
Okay, any other input on this one? We don't actually need to take a motion or do a motion or anything on this. Anybody in the audience want to discuss this? No? Okay. Good choice. All right, number 10, the 2019 end-of-year report with Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, I will have to say, it was interesting to take a look at that. That just shows you all the hours. It's a good reminder of everything you had to do. And it's quite comprehensive, so, I don't know, do you want to give a quick synopsis?
Well, so this was, Brad put this together, and we're very pleased with Brad. He came on board in August. He's really been fitting in very well, and he's been, getting his hands on a lot of different things, and this is one of them. And we're very pleased to see that he really broke it down into the different kinds of work that you've been doing between ordinance amendments, site plan reviews, special land use permits. This year alone, the Planning Commission reviewed 9 applications for special land use, and 9 were approved. 9 applications for site plan review were received and 9 were approved. As for ordinance text amendment proposals, 10 proposals were received, 6 were approved, 1 was denied, and 3 were postponed for further discussion. For planned unit master development amendments, we had 3 applications and 3 were approved. As you go through here, it's kind of like taking a walk in memory lane, thinking far back what we were doing last January and kind of effectuating those SDR cleanup items and that going through that. So we've really kind of covered a lot of different items. Not all of it was all planning, but we're administrating the things that we need to. As for the zoning board of appeals, which is that quasi judicial body, they met substantially less than you did. They had 5 meetings this year. They had 1 land use variance. It was similar to the one that you heard here for, I believe it was 1053 East Wells. That application was denied. Of the dimensional variance, which is the more standard variance application request, they had 5 applications. 3 were approved, 2 were denied. Brad did kind of list what were the nature of the requests here. Quick aside, I'm not sure if any of you watched the city council meeting on Monday night. I know Larry was there. But 759 Memorial Boulevard, the 20-foot wide sidewalk, the 20-foot wide driveway that went to the zoning board of appeals that was denied, and then we came and we discussed the driveways, and ultimately this board made a recommendation for no changes. The city council is asking the planning commission to undertake a review of a 21-foot wide driveway, I believe in all zoning districts, if I remember correctly. So we'll be bringing that to you in the later months, either February or March. Kind of going on further, we didn't really put this in the report, but we'll be bringing you a health services zoning district. So that's been postulated by the master plan. Currently, Bronson is building a new hospital. That is in the B2. It meets the zoning there, but they're also looking at potentially putting a wound clinic. And the old hospital that is currently standing would be torn down, and I believe that they're looking at putting more hospital offices or hospital something. So it's been asked that if we take that step of our master plan and create a health services district. So we'll be bringing that to you in February for your consideration. So you'll be talking about CBD setbacks and a new zoning district, so.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this report?
Kudos to Brad, he did a lot of good work on that, so thank you.
All right.
You could correct the spelling of my name if you would, please.
I definitely will.
I didn't even check.
Oh. My apologies, Larry, I always get that eye right.
All right, seeing no other discussion regarding this item, I will approve receipt of the 2019 end-of-year report for Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals by unanimous consent. Next up, staff and commissioner comments.
Well, I guess I'll lead off. I really do want to commend my team, Nick Curcio for his excellent work this year, Marcia, Carol.
This year or last year?
Oh, that's right. It'd be a little premature this year, wouldn't it? For 2019, we had some really hefty things on the docket. We had a tumultuous summer, so I can't stress enough that I work with some very quality people, and it's a joy to come to work every day and work with them. And I'm very, very pleased with the quality of workmanship that I'm seeing. So I just want to thank everybody in the building department, Ryan Bosher, Nick Curcio. So it's been fantastic.
Okay. Jan?
Oh, yes, and I think kudos should go also to the subcommittee. I think plowing through all that information, and with your assistance, Nick, certainly that we're better prepared for the next wave of construction that might come our way in the downtown area. So thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, thanks to city staff. The packets that we get are just amazing. I've been going back through them, and it's to try to get some better understanding, and the minutes are great. It makes it easy to be a new member here of the amount of work and clear professional work that's been done for years. If I watched the minutes, or excuse me, the video of the city council meeting, at the end of that, Mayor Smith gave sort of a recap of the year. Yeah, and it's excellent. If you want to he's a great cheerleader. If you want to get pumped up about what gets accomplished and how much is going on, it's a great thing. It's at the end of a long meeting, but we're lucky to have him leading us, I think. And that's
Yep.
I have no further comments.
Okay. Rosalie?
I've got a couple comments, but I was just going to say, Marcia, you remember all these kudos at review time? But I wanted to say that I was at the board meeting as well on Monday, and I was pretty darn excited about the driveway, because as you recall, I was the only vote that voted no to stay with 16 feet. So I'm looking forward to working with that again. That's all.
Yeah, just very, very quickly, reinforcing thank you so much. This is my first year, and Tim, I am studying how to make a motion. Give me a little time. It's a work in progress here. A work in progress.
Just gotta have a pen and write them out.
But seriously, I hope the staff understands that we're your biggest fans and we're ambassadors, and I do try to let the general public know just how lucky we are to have the staff that we have that gets us through all this work. So thank you so much.
Great.
Okay. Todd, I really appreciate what you just said, because it's nice when new members come on this commission that they do take the time to do a little research and are caught up as much as you can be on what's going on. It makes the discussion go a lot easier for the whole group, so kudos to you for doing that. Next, we have a instructional coming up, and you might want to just touch that real quick.
Sure. So actually, I'm going to give you a little preview of one coming down the road, too.
Okay.
So next Monday, on the 13th, here in this room from 6 to 9, the MML is having an instructor come down and give the new council some instruction on just essentials of city government. We've put out to all the boards and commissions, as well as our neighboring communities, that they're free to attend. The session will be taped. If for some reason you can't make it, there will be snacks, so that's quite an inducement, I know. But it's just a great refresher. The city is always looking to provide more training for our boards and commission, because as we know, the more we learn, the better we do. So that's on Monday, the 13th, here in this room, 6 to 9. And I do want to also kind of let you know, in May, we'll be doing boards and commission appointments. I believe that there's 3 people that should be up. I think Rosalie, you might be one of them. I know Valva's one, and I think maybe it might be Larry, but I'm not sure. I think it is. I'll be approaching you all individually to see if you'd like to reapply. We'll get you those board applications up. But what I want to let you know is that when we onboard our new members or people who happen to stay on or want to stay on, I'm looking at bringing them the MAP, the Michigan Association of Planners, to come here and give us some training. Planning and zoning essentials, as well as a session for the Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll probably schedule that in some time, like a Thursday night, something where you guys would naturally come in here, so it would be too disruptive. But we'd like to bring the training to you. Of course, we'll reach out to our local community partners and see if anybody who wants to come, because it will be an open meeting, since it'll be all you folks here. So sometime in May, late May, after we know who will be on the boards and commissions, I'd like to call it mandatory, but you all are volunteers, so I can't really compel you to be here.
Would that be, I noticed I got my brochure in the mail today, and I noticed that they're offering it in March in Grand Rapids and Jackson.
Yeah.
Would this be?
So the planning and zoning essentials that's in that would be the same thing they'd be bringing here.
Okay.
So Brad's already been investigating who can come down here, when we can get them here in May, and that way, because it's hard for some people to leave town, and then because of cost-wise, only 1 or 2 people get to do it a year. So we kind of thought that for the best bang for the buck, why don't we bring them here and get as many people to stack in the room, and then everyone's getting the same training. So that was the thought process.
Thank you.
How many plan on attending Monday that's sitting up here? Everybody? Okay. 'Cause
Excellent, thank you.
I was going to offer if you had any specific questions you wanted asked to send them to myself or Kate. And for the ones that aren't here, make sure, well, I know you talked to them,
Sure.
but if they have, same thing, if they have any questions, make sure and forward them if they're not going to attend.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that's it for this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for watching at home. I think the big rally will be on, and was it 9 o'clock rally tonight?
I think it's over.
It's over? So we had competition, huh?
I move we adjourn.
Very good.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to adjourn. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.